Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're continuing our series Chess Lessons from Grandmasters, and today we're looking at the two bishops endgame. You recall in our last video we had a king and a rook endgame where we used the rook to checkmate the black king. And now we have two bishops. The rook is 5 points and two bishops are 3 points apiece, totaling to 6 points. So of course, if we could use a rook to checkmate the black king, then if played right, we could use the bishops. The principles of endgame still remain. As you remember, we had two fundamental principles: to keep the king on the edge of the board and control the center of the board. So in this game, our black king is already by the edge of the board, so we will use our pieces to prevent the black king from coming towards the center. If our black king was on the center of the board, then we would have used our king to replace the black king in the center. So let's see how we can use our pieces to prevent the black king from moving towards the center. First and foremost, we control the squares that are in front of the black king that are closest to the white king. Don't forget this principle. Squares in front of the black king that are closest to the white king. So what do we do here? Our first move is going to be d3, not c4. Of course, c4 controls a white square in front of the black king, but that light square is not closest to the white king. So the correct move here is to move d3. d3 controls a white square in front of the black king, but this white square is closest to the white king because we need to bring a white king into the action, so we need to start controlling squares that are closer to the white king. So now our black king has two squares to go to, g8 and g7. And you know the principle of endgame. The black king is better off in the center of the board, so the black king is going to move to g7. So what do we do? Now here is the most important principle in the two bishops endgame. Control the three squares in front of the black king. You heard me right. Control the three squares in front of the black king. So now, the light square bishop controls g6 square. Alright? So what other squares are in front of the black king? We have the h6 square and the f6 square. So how do you think we can control those two squares with one move? Exactly. We move our bishop to g5. And with just one move, as you can see, we have controlled the three squares in front of the black king. So now the black king can no longer move forward. So he's going to try to circumvent the blockade by moving to f7. So what do we do right now? Do we give up? No, we continue as planned. We control the three squares in front of the black king, and since the dark square bishop is controlling f6 and the light square bishop is controlling g6, we have just one more square to control, which is e6. So how do you suppose we control that? Exactly. We move the light square bishop to f5. So the three squares in front of the black king are completely controlled. And now that the bishops are side by side, we can notice that they have created a diagonal blockade for the black king. The black king can no longer move past these squares. So this diagonal blockade has confined the black king such that the black king can only move within these 7 squares. So of course the black king is going to move to somewhere. So the black king is going to move back because of the blockade. And now it's time for our king to approach to join the action. So we're going to move f2, f7, g3, g7, king h4, king f7, king h5, king g7, and what do we do next? As you can see in front of the black king, the three squares f6, g6, and h6 are fully controlled by the light pieces. Now, by the other side, we have f6, f7, and f8, but only f6 is being controlled. So what do you think we need to do to control more squares in this f line? If you thought of e6, then well done, you're getting to understand the whole idea of the game. The light square bishop is controlling f7 and the dark square bishop is controlling f6, and we are limiting the number of squares for the king. But that is not the correct move, because you remember we brought our king into the game to help protect the pieces. Remember, in the end game, our king is a support system to protect our pieces. So we need to control this f7 square in a way that our king will still be able to protect our bishop. So how is that possible? Exactly, we move our bishop to g6. So the bishop is protected and the bishop is controlling the f7 square. So let's say the black king moves backward to g8. Then what do? We try to limit the squares for the king. Right now, the king can move to 4 squares: f8, g8, h8, and g7. But that g7, we can take control of it with one simple move. We move our king to h6. So the black king moves to f8. So what do we do here? Right now, we play an intermediate waiting move. It's not really a waiting move because it's actually attacking, but for now, it's not doing much. What we do is to move our bishop backwards. The idea is we want to control this f8 square, but we don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize our chances of winning smoothly or engaging in a stalemate. So we want the king to move away. The bishops are creating a blockade on this diagonal. So of course, once the king moves away, we'll be able to confine the black king to 2 squares. How do we do that? The king moves away and we bring our bishop into the game. Can you see? So our bishop is now controlling the f8 square, and then our king is now confined to just 2 squares. Now our king moves to the only possible square available to him, and we do what? Nah, don't do this, don't move here. That's stalemate. That is stalemate, and your king can't move anywhere. So what do? You know you can checkmate him as soon as possible, but you don't want a stalemate. So you make sure that this g8 square is still available to the king before you check the king. So we play another intermediate waiting move with the light square bishop. We play another intermediate waiting move with the light square bishop by moving to g4. So of course, the king just has one square to go to, and that is g8. And now we strike. Boom. e6. So our king just has one more square to go to, and we move our king h8, and we put the nail on the coffin. f6, and that is how we checkmate our king. Funny enough, we've made a lot of moves, but it's just 14 moves. 14 moves, and the king has been checkmated in the corner. Let me show you again. So, to checkmate the black king, we make sure that the king remains in the corner of the board by controlling the 3 squares in front of the black king. Exactly. So that's what we did here. We control the three squares in front of the black king. Then when the king tries to circumvent it, we create a blockade, controlling the three squares in front of the black king and controlling the diagonal by which the king will try to escape. Then we bring our white king into the game. Then afterwards, we control more squares by the side of the king. When we do that, we bring our light squared king into the game to control even more squares, and then we play an intermediate move for our king to move away while we control the important light squared. Then we have confined the king to just two squares. Remember this move, very important intermediate move to prevent a stalemate. We ensure that the light squared is still open for the black king, and once our king moves, then we enter this beautiful checkmate. So that's it, how to checkmate the black king with two bishops. I hope you test it out, I hope you practice with it, and I hope you win your end games as much as I want to start winning my end games.